Okay, so this is the second session. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, so what I want to say that when you are building a class, I would say start with a basic functionality in the class. Just create the private variables, create your constructor, and then start to build your main program. So your main program is the one that you use it to test the class. And then you start to define a new class and test. If everything working, then you start little bit by little bit adding functionality. Okay, the test program is very
Yes.
important. Okay, because sometimes you make a small change that doesn't work, so you will never know from where to start fixing. So this is my advice as a start. Okay, so I would say here, let me see here. So you see, I created since last time we said that let me see, we have a freelancer that is it is made from a part-time class. We created it from a part-time class. Okay, and this freelancer actually will also he's also an employee, right? Because part-time is inherited from employee class. And then we said we want to make this freelancer have his tools. So since a part-time class is inheriting from base, so we are able to add tools to the freelancer. So we give him a laptop, we give him camera, we give him a power bank. And this is the life expectancy for each tool that he receives. So far, does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so I will not talk more about containment. I will move to the next topic that we should try to discuss today. Let me see here. I will stop the slides here. So let's talk about files here. Okay, let me first ask you, do you know what is the difference between a text file and a binary file?
I can't remember.
Okay, so you, okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, on the left-hand side, this is an example of how a binary file looks like when you open it.
Okay.
Okay, and to the right-hand side, this is a text file. So text file will use the ASCII table to save any text you enter as a strings in general. So everything you input or output of the text file will be strings that is saved using the ASCII table. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So when do we use text file and when do we use binary files? Can you still remember, or I need to give more details?
Yeah. More details.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So now, because sometimes I cannot hear you very well, but okay. So text file, any time we want to save just a text, then we will use a text file, and then we can also put text in the text file. We save information line by line. It's preferably that we have a fixed amount of lines that we save. So it means that we save the line inside the text file that is maybe in the same size. It's better. Okay, although it's an optional thing, because the way we save information inside text file, we save it line by line, and we read it also by line. Okay, so that is the functions that is used even in the pseudocode or even Visual Basic. So when do we need to use binary files? So if we want to save records inside a file, then we should always resort to using binary files. Text file you can use, you can save just sentences or even anything that is not related to each other, also it's fine. But binary files, if we want to save records and each record have certain fields inside, then we need to look into putting them in a binary file. Does this make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay. So let us have a look. Yeah, this is okay. So binary files can actually store things, records in a serial order or a sequential order, and also can store records also in a random way. So what is the meaning serial? What is the meaning sequential? And what's the meaning random? Does this make any sense to you? Do you still remember these words from before?
Yeah, serial is just one after the other. Sequential is ordered by the key field, and random is in random order.
Okay, so the first two is correct, but random file or direct access file, so it doesn't mean that they are really random, but they actually are stored based on a key, and they are stored, how to say, in a kind of ordered way. So an ordered way that we are able to access it is similar to an array. Consider it as an array. Okay, and then if you want to access records very fast, you have to use a random file, and then so I'm able to calculate. So records have fixed size. Okay, consider this as a file, and we have records that is stored on every space here. They are having fixed size, so I know if I know the size of one record, and I know that I want to go to them maybe the 10th record, so I am able to calculate the size and then immediately go to the exact place inside the file where I want to read my record. And the techniques that we use to calculate the places here and the size of the record, we call it hashing. If you can still remember from the exercise, there was a question about hashing. So we will go through that. Okay. So yes, like you said, serial file is one after another. So serial files, an example of a serial file is like a log that everything is happening. For example, you keep a log for your classes. So every time you go to a certain class, you would say, okay, I attended, or even the teacher did not come, or so you just write one note every event or action that happened inside your class. So you keep adding one note after another, right? There is no order, and sometimes there is no meaning from that. But with a sequential file, like you said, yes, they are ordered in blocks, but the problem with the sequential file, if we want to read some information here, then maybe we need to read all the files, all the records or blocks inside the sequential file until we find what we are looking for. And also one of the problem with the sequential file, that if we want to let me see here, if you want to add to a sequential file or even delete from a sequential file, that is actually very difficult and time consuming process, and it takes a lot of memory. So if you want to add a record, this is because this is need to be always an ordered. So he will need to always, if this is the file, you need to insert something here. Then he will copy that part to a temporary file, and then insert the records that need to be inserted, and then get the remaining and put it back here. So that is a time-consuming process because he have to use two files in the process. And if he want to delete, he also need to do the same. He want to take all this out and then delete this one, and then take this one again and put them together. And he have to do that not on the same file. He need to use temporary files. Does this make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay. So that is something that we, let me see here. So I would say an example of using a sequential file is like a database that is organized in a sequential way, where records are sorted by customer number. This would make the search easy for a specific customer record by just looking into the customer number. So normally they are ordered with certain number or even record number. Okay. Let me see here. What else? Yeah. So direct access sometimes is referred to random access. Okay. Let me see here. Okay. They are able to achieve direct access using a sequential file with certain additions. But the most important thing to us here that they are using hashing algorithm to be able to find the record and to find it fast enough. So if you want to store some data that you want to access very fast, so you have to use this kind of random access files that go to hashing algorithm where we know how to find our record very fast. In the sequential, you have to read, you keep reading all the records until you reach the one that you're really looking for. So if the records is ordered by number, by a record number, so for example, you want to access record number 10, so you will keep comparing, going to the first record and checking what is the record number. If it is 1, so it means that you need to increment 1 more. So until you reach 9, then you check, oh, still looking for 1 more. Okay, then you go and check, and 10, for the 10 record, you find the 10th record, it matches the record ID, then you don't need to continue reading anymore. Okay. But with the random, you don't need to do that. Using a hashing algorithm, you are able to calculate where to put the records, and you are able to calculate from where to read your record. So you don't need to read one by one and start comparing. Does this make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, there is something that we need to discuss, but I still prefer, yeah. Let me just tell you this first before we move on. I want to show you some practice. So even though when we are using this, okay, I told you we need to use hashing algorithm. I think I prefer to show you the slide with the hashing algorithm, how it looks like. Let me search here. Dun, dun, dun. So this how the hashing algorithm looks like. So that is a hashing function that we are able to use it's in a pseudocode. They never provide it in the syllabus as a VB. So he uses he pass a key, maybe the record key, and then he use a modulus, and then n is the number of records. So if you're having 10 records, so n will be 10. So 11. 10, yes, it's 11. Yes, okay. And then he use a modulus with that, and then he will come up with the address. So that address is actually where he is going to store here. But sometimes different numbers especially when using modulus, there is a very high chance that you will end up using modulus, and then you having the same number, same like here. When I got these numbers and I make a modulus, I make this calculation, certain times you will find that the modulus return the same. So 6 and 6. So it tells me to store two different records in the 6th position. Okay, but the 6th position actually cannot store two records. So this is what we call collusion. Collusion means that you have the hashing algorithm telling you to store two different records in the same place, which will never happen. So if we find that, okay, we have a record that is already stored on the 6th position based on our calculation, so we will increment the index by 1. So we will go to the 7th position and we will check. If it is empty, then we will insert our new record. If it's not, then we will increment our index by one more, and then we will check. If it is empty, we will insert. If it is not, we will come here. I mean, if we even when we reach here, we find it also it is not empty. So we will start again from 0 to check until we find an empty place. And we know that we base our calculation based on the number of entities or places that we want to store here. So if we know our file that we need to store 10 records inside the file, so it means that there must be an empty place for us. So it doesn't matter where is the place, but there must be an empty place for us, because there is 10 empty places. Okay, we start to find one by using the hash, but sometimes he would tell us to store information in the same place or records in the same place, which doesn't work. So we would have to keep incrementing until we reach the end of the last position, and then we start from 0 again. So this can work for storing records in an array and also for storing records inside direct access binary files. Does this make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, so we will have a look at how the code works in the remaining time here. Let me go back here. So, okay, my comment to you is that, and this is just a fast notice, I still need to give you more exercises on the pseudocode. I feel your pseudocode need to be slightly stressed on, because not all of the exam you will have it in VB. Yes, certain question will you be able to write in VB, but other parts you need to understand pseudocode very well. I think your understanding of pseudocode is not bad, but I believe your problem solving with a pseudocode need some attention and some improving, because when you create functions, for example, I see that, okay, you didn't write the that's a so the function need a header, a proper header. You need to show that the function returns something. So sometimes you forget things like that. Okay, and
Okay.
when
Yes.
when we have if statement, we need always an end if. When we create a while loop, we need an end while. So this is what I mean. This is what they consider the normal syntax for the pseudocode. So you need to follow exactly the same like they requested us to do. So does this make
Okay.
sense what I'm telling you? So you have to pay some attention.
Yes.
You don't want to lose marks based on these certain little issues.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yes.
okay, let's have a look here. So we are able to open. So and this is on this side of the table. We have a structure English that tell us what what the command is going to do, and this is a pseudocode command. So we are able to open files for write. and that work for both binary or even for text. Okay, but for random actually we use for random access or direct access, we use the word random. Okay, and yeah, so here we open a file for write or for append or for read. Append means that we only add to the end of the file. Write is just writing inside the file. But when you write inside the file in this method, you will actually write, you will overwrite whatever inside the file. Okay, so as if you are creating a file from scratch. Read is just reading only, and if you open a file for reading, you cannot start writing unless you call close file. Every time we open a file, we have to call close file. So you open one time for writing, you have to close the file first, and then start opening it again if you want to read. So sometimes he will write and then close the file and then want to confirm that what he wrote is actually working correctly or even stored correctly. So he will write and then close and then call again open file for reading, and then after he do all the reading, he will close it again. Does this make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, so when we storing files for when we're storing or writing files in a binary format, so we need certain so there is two ways when we are storing, when we are dealing with binary files. We can store files in a sequential order or in how to say in a random access. So it's either sequential or random. So random, we just look a while ago, we talked about a hashing algorithm that we need to use. Sequential does not need to, it's binary, yes, but we don't need to use any hashing algorithms. Okay, so both put record and get record will actually be used with both sequential files and random access. Okay, but seek address, this command will be only used to when we are dealing with random files. Okay, it's slightly complicated than sequential. Okay, but again, we talk about random access files. We are if we want to access the files very fast, we need to do a simple calculation. We need to know where we want to read exactly by calculation. We need to use a hashing function to know where exactly to land, and then start reading the record that we are searching for if there is no collusion. If there is a collusion, we have to slightly do some adjustment and look for the for our record on the next index or something like that, and until we find it. So end of file, this is a mark that is put either on, it's used either on binary files or even on text files that we can use to when we are reading. I think mostly when we are reading. So if you want to read a file, you can use a while loop. You will tell the while loop why it is not end of file. Why it is not end of file, keep reading the lines, line by line, for example, or keep even reading the records line by line or record by record until he sees a mark end of file. We cannot see that end of file by eyes. It's something that is marked on the files, and only we can read it programmatically. Does this make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, so let me, I still want to have a look at Visual Basic before the time. Okay, so this is a text file. Okay. First, we need to open a file using a file handle. So we define a file handle using this library. It's actually called system.io.streamwriter. So that is for writing a file. Okay. And then after we define that we have a variable called file handle of type streamwriter, so we need to initialize that using new, because at the end IO streamwriter is a class. What it takes the file name. So you can make it in one line. You can say you can define it, and then you say it's equal new iStreamWriter, and then you pass it the file name. Or you can use it in a different line like that. So two of them is related. Okay, so you use the file handle, this variable, to with the word right, with the method write line, and then you pass it what you want to write here. So it will write it. After you finish writing what you want to write, then you have to close the file handle. So does this make sense to you so far?
Yes.
Okay, so let us stop sharing here. We go to, let me see here. So that is, I created a function here that is called read file to class. This file, it reads, no, I don't want to read now because I didn't teach you yet about reading. I will tell you about writing first. Let me see here that we go to the writing, because that would read file to, let me see. It seems that I didn't write, so let me see. Never mind. What we do now is, since we didn't define here one for writing, we can make a simple file. Okay, so we make a simple sub to write text file. Okay, and then we pass it a file name like that, and then we say end sub, and then we define. Can you still remember file handle? As
IO
stream writer, right? So so actually it is system.io stream reader or system.oo stream writer. So since I imported that here, I don't need to write it again. So let me write stream writer, and I would say new So since I already opened it, I will close. Okay, and what else I need to do? So I need to write something, right? So I would add here text. Okay, so tell me what else we need to do to write. So file handle dot write line, right? So what we want to write here is the text from here. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so we should try to write the text here and we save it to a file. So we need to go to the test program. Does this make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see if it works. So if it works perfect, it means that it will create a file here on our left side with the word text. So it will, yeah, it's Nayan.txt. Let's see. Mm, okay, so it doesn't show me any error so far. Okay, so you see here?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so it means that we are able to read it, to write it perfectly, right?
Yes.
Okay, and if we write just one more thing before we finish here. So sorry, it's slightly shorter class, but this is, I would add here. This is just an optional end of file. I just want to demonstrate to you that every time we write line by line, and also when we read line by line. So in the next class, I will focus on writing, um, reading information from a file, storing them in an array, and reading information from file, and also storing them in a classes, okay, or even
Okay.
an array of classes. Um, do, actually, I want to ask you first. Uh, is it troublesome to you when I give you a long homework?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
For right now it's fine, but like in October, like the second week onwards, I have my exams.
Okay, so I will slow down a bit. Yes. Um, First, tell me, should we make our class on Thursday or Friday?
This Thursday fine?
Okay, but don't make it early morning because yeah, because it will be short, and also I need some time to upload all the videos and the resources to you from this class, so that will take me some time. Okay, so can we make it
Yeah.
afternoon?
Uh, yeah, okay, sure.
If not, you can, I mean, if you need to make it in the morning, do it on Friday, but again, it will be also short, like 1 hour. Okay,
Okay.
so it's your choice. And so I will try to send you to upload all the recordings and send it to you as usual. Okay.
Yeah.
So well, still, let me try to share something with you, since we still got a few minutes, since this guy is still. So let me explain the reading of the files in Visual Basic. So, okay, the most important thing here again is the file handle. So he defined the file handle as IO stream reader. Since we import system.io, we don't need to include that here. We just say file handle equals stream reader. And then after we define that variable, then we created it as using a new keyword, because it's a class, and we pass it the file name that we want to read. And then we start reading this line by line. But again, this here, it's reading only one line out of the file. If we want to read all the lines from a class, from a text file, then we have to use a while loop. And with the while loop, sorry, this is bad. So the while loop have to check for not end of file. And not end of file here is called not end of stream. Okay, and that is used in Visual Basic. So while not end of stream, we will loop, and then we will keep reading line by line. Okay, in this example, he's only reading one line only in this case. Does this make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, let me check if this have done. So you see here, I'm able to write 2 lines so far.
Fine.
Yes, and again,
Yes.
if I make a function now to read, it will only read one line, because I mean, we didn't see yet how to create a one with a while loop. Okay, in the next class, I will go through that, and also I will go through dealing with binary files. Okay. Okay, so thanks a lot and take care.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.